Good afternoon. This is Kanaya Kennedy, your medicine woman, coach, and minister. I'm super excited to be here. It is Sunday, February the 18th, 2018, and I am live in, this is the New Thought, New Life weekly hangout. I'm one of your hostesses, Kanaya. Like I said, I usually am hosting with my other spiritual sister friend, Versandra Kennebrew. I'm holding it down today. I'm also simultaneously live on Facebook, so hello to my Facebook fam over here. But I'm also live in the Google Hangout, so if you want to check it out at live.newthought.net, you are more than welcome. Over at live.newthoughtnewlife.net, you will be able to hear and interact a little bit more. You can chat with me, all that kind of good stuff. And if you just want to watch on Facebook, that's beautiful too. It all works. A little bit about it. Every week, I have a commitment to come to you and share about New Thought. And if you're not familiar with what New Thought is, New Thought, oh my goodness, it is not really new, meaning how we think about it. It's really just looking from a Christian tradition. I have to let people know that. We're looking at the Bible and the Gospels and the teachings of Jesus Christ. We say newly, and newly in that releasing a lot of the dogma and some of the beliefs that have cropped up around those teachings over the past couple of millennia that really aren't in line with what we see that core message. And ultimately, that core message is one of love. Love. And when you look at it, when you read it, to me, it made perfect sense. My journey to New Thought, I always have to share a little bit about it. I grew up in a traditional Christian home, traditional in the sense that I went to church on Sundays, but I also went to church on Saturdays. So very young, I was a Seventh-day Adventist. My mom and my dad was AME, African Methodist Episcopal, so I was in church a lot. Learned to read Bible stories, children's based Bible stories. So my foundation was very much from a loving perspective of the divine. When I got older and got into more traditional churches, it was a little different. It wasn't love. So the fire and brimstone message didn't really get to me till I was a little older, and it didn't really mesh well with who I knew God to be and the message that I got around loving one another and walking around doing good things and spreading the good news, as it were. And so my personal journey from leaving the church as a teen, young adult, not so much rebelling, because I've always been very spirit driven, but just kind of like, well, what would serve me in terms of my spiritual journey? Took me all over the place. I was in a book club from Detroit, Michigan originally. And there was a place called Cafe Mahogany, wonderful place. No longer exists, but it was a beautiful space at the time. We had a book club. And I remember in the book club, one of the books someone brought was like Religions of the World. It was really cool because it helped expose me to different belief systems, even more so than I had been. At that point, after going to college, I knew about Islam, I knew about Judaism, I knew about Christianity. I learned in college, in particular, the difference between the Nation of Islam, which I knew from growing up in Detroit, and then more traditional Islam, which I met a Black Muslim who wasn't Nation. And I was like, well, that's a thing. So, and we're very good friends. One of my best friends in school. And so I was like, well, there's all this out here. And so I dabbled in Buddhism, which turned me on to meditation. I took yoga class in college, which also helped me learn a little bit about meditation. I didn't know any kind of religious connotation with that around Hinduism or anything. I just loved the experience of yoga. And so all of those things conspired to bring me to exactly where I am, which is the right and perfect place. I'm as an ordained minister in understanding that God is love. And however you get to God as love is your personal journey. And so what I love about what we're doing with New Thought, New Life is really simple. However you think informs what you do, and what you do informs what you have, and what you have is like your life experience. And so if you want a different kind of life, you've got to change the way you think. One of the scriptures that you'll find, it talks about there being a renewing of your mind. This is key. And so one of the books that really helped me is a book called A Course in Miracles. So I always like to show the text. This is the full version. Inside of this, there's a workbook for students. There's the manual for teachers, and there's also a text. So it's a comprehensive book. Pretty deep reading, not something you're going to breeze through. The workbook for students has a series of lessons. Now, there's 365 lessons. But you don't have to do a lesson a day, meaning if there's a lesson that really sticks with you, you want to stick with it until you get everything there is to get out. There's no rush to get through the course. But the lessons are designed to underscore what's in the text. So the text is like how you read it. It's like, this is great information. But then in the workbook, it helps you actually apply it. So that, again, not only do you know it, but you begin to live it and you start to transform your mind. The manual for teachers is important because one of the things that we'll talk about, if you look in the Bible and you look at the words of Jesus Christ, and I have to be clear about that because there's other texts and there's other books in the Bible, but those are books that are written by people who were inspired. Like they either heard about the teachings of Jesus, because most of those texts weren't written during the time that Jesus lived, and then they have their interpretations, and it's beautiful. Like that's what they got. But when we look at the actual words and the teachings of Jesus, those stories that are transcribed, I mean, them more orally, but if you look at the essence of it, um, one of the things that was commanded that we all go out and become spreaders and teachers. And so this is a manual. So for when you're ready to start teaching, how you can start to do that. And so this is just like like to me, any of the books that made it into the biblical canon, because many books didn't, it's someone's interpretation or what someone was inspired to write as a result of their own experience with the divine. And that's what the course is. And it's a newer text. All right, so that's kind of a bit of a background. So if you're someone, I call this practical spirituality. That's why I like the lessons. If you're looking for ways to actually apply spirituality to your life, to be able to have it make a difference in the experience you have, this is a good program. So we're in chapter 6 this week. Every week we try to move through a portion of the text. Sometimes it'll be based on chapters, but I really like to look at the length of the chapters. We want it to be digestible, not overwhelming. So chapter 6 wasn't too long, but I'm going to do a little bit of 5 and a little bit of 6. And we're going to talk ego, and we're also going to talk love. So beautiful, two great things to discuss. So ego and love. Hi, I see a couple of people on the Facebook feed. Welcome. Thank you for being here. Hope you get a lot out of it today. And so my co-host wasn't able to make it today, but we are committed to making sure that we are here or we have someone here for you every single week. So I'm riding solo today. So I'm just pulling up my notes. All right. So chapter 5 in the text is all about ego. And it's important that we really get clear what the ego is and what it isn't, right? And it's not about, this isn't about bad or good, right or wrong. It's not so much chapter 5 was about healing and wholeness. Chapter 4 was about ego. But inside of chapter 5, we talked about the ego and how it can get in the way of your healing and wholeness. I'm going to be clear. So, and then we'll get into love. Love, yay, it's Valentine's Day. It was just this past week, so it's so appropriate. The ego. So the ego's purpose is about fear, right? One of the things we talk about in New Thought is understanding what happened. How did we get off track? What we find is that if we were created by the divine, right? And by the divine, one of the things that's also important is that we're not talking about God as an entity, as a physical being, like not something that you can touch, taste, feel, anything with your physical senses, excuse me. It's more about understanding that God is the source of all. It is divine intelligence, not an intelligent person or entity. It's intelligence. It's not power. It's being powerful. It's power. The whole concept of power. It's not being loving. It is love. It's not having knowledge. Or being intelligent. It's the idea of all knowledge. So like everything. And then we are individualized expressions of that. So when it talks about us being made in the image of the divine, it's not this, which is why our skin suits ultimately won't matter, because the true essence of who I am isn't any of this, right? This is a tool that's used to move throughout the world and do things. And so with all that being said, but something happened where we became unaware, separated from this knowledge that we are divine. And if God is good and all that God created is good, then we are good. So what we think is that we are good, we are divine, as individualized expressions of the divine, and that we are all connected. Because if we're it's like water in the ocean. All the little drops make up the ocean. It's all the ocean. And if you pull it out, it's just a drop of the ocean. You're still part of the ocean, right? On a smaller scale. So that makes sense, right? And so when we talk about being children of God, sons of God, daughters of God, that's what we're talking about, okay? And so Jesus, as the master teacher inside the Christian tradition, was simply here to explain, like help people get it, because people had lost their way. So if you study the Old Testament and you move into the New Testament, that's, to me, that's the message. And we talk about it both physically, but also metaphysically. And understanding that whether or not it's actual true story is irrelevant, because one of the ways of teaching, particularly old school, ancient teachings, is in the world of fables and parables and stories. And you create characters, like inside of the Ashanti, I believe it's the Ashanti tradition. There's a story about Anansi, the spider. Well, the spider isn't a real person having adventures as a spider, but it's an archetype. Okay, so that's why there's no need to get into a whole discussion about is it fact, is it fiction, doesn't matter. What's the essence? What's the lesson? All right. So at one point we were connected with the divine, right? And we knew who we were and we had a purpose and we went out here to fulfill the purpose. And then something happened that we got disconnected. And so what we say is that that ego is like the outgrowth of that, of like, oh, wait. And it tells you I'm not good. I'm not enough. There's something wrong. I should be afraid. I should be afraid of others. I should be afraid of God. Like all it's like, but fear and love can't coexist. And if God is love, then fear is of God. And if God is awe, then that means love is really awe. And if you're believing in fear, that's just you're confused, right? And so part of what we do with this work is to bring ourselves, we're trying to get back to the awareness that God is love. And as expressions of God, we are love and we are good. And so then, and if we, as children of the divine, then we're entitled to everything the divine has to offer. So prosperity, good health, wholeness, love, all of that is our birthright. But how do we claim it? Well, first we got to be aware that it's ours, and then we've got to figure out how to get it. And so the ego is the thing that's in the way. Okay. And so the ego uses things like fear and guilt, all right, to help you feel like you are not love and you are not divine and you are not good. So the lessons in the workbook eventually are going to help you again reprogram yourself. You've been programmed to believe these things, and now we're going to reprogram ourselves. How do you begin to do it? Actually, you've got to read the book and you've got to do the work. So this is about like talking about what it looks like in real life and kind of guiding us through it. And so I want you to ask questions. If you have questions, please type them in, because that's what this is like. The idea behind teachers is not like I can't give this to you. You have to pull it to yourself. I can share, and that's my job, is to share my journey. All right. So as I was going through this part of the text, the healing and wholeness is very important to me because I've been going through my health challenges, and I was just like, I don't like. It was confusing. I was really angry. I was getting irritated because I'm like, I believe that God is good. I'm good. I'm whole health. I'm whole and complete and perfect, but I'm not experiencing that. And so, what's missing? And so the question for me continue to look at. All right. Well, what's missing? What's missing? Because something's there that's in the way of me experiencing life as this is my birthright. And it's like learning how to operate in the knowledge that all is well, even when it occurs, it's not. So for me this week, here's what it looked like. Tuesday, I had an awesome meeting with the Atlanta Community Wellness Collective. So it's a wellness collective that Spirit had me start with another superstar diva it was 2016, summer of 2016. And bringing together holistic wellness practitioners, because I'm a holistic wellness practitioner, medicine woman, so that we begin to work together to bring healing to our community. Okay, beautiful. That sounds wonderful. And so we're doing this. And then I have all these health challenges last year, and I went on this spiritual journey. Literally, I went all the way to India. Beautiful experience. I'll talk about that some other point or one of my videos. But when I got back, crazy health challenges, skin, hair, body. I was like, what is going on? And so that's been my journey over the year. Really getting clear on why is this happening? And when I say why, not like there's something wrong, but why like there's a lesson in everything. And when you can get the lesson, you can totally move past the experience. Now that comes from an awesome text, and I'll drop the link in our discussion group. The book is called The Presence Process. Wonderful text around like emotional healing and awareness. So start to ask when things happen, what's the lesson? What's the lesson? And then what's the blessing? What's the blessing? So this week, we were like, we're going to reboot this year. We all had things happen last year. We got off track. So on Tuesday, we had our first meeting of the year. We were excited. We completed the meeting. We're on fire. Okay, we're hungry. We'll get something to eat. So we decided to go to a vegan restaurant here in Atlanta. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's going to be so delicious. So we're on the way to the restaurant. We're still talking, and we're excited. We get out the car. We're still talking. We go to the restaurant. We order our food. We're still talking. Like we are on fire. All right. I'm feeling like, yes, divine. Thank you for bringing me to these fabulous women who were like, we're putting spirit first in this business. And we're just talking. Get our food. And we head back out to the car to go back. Open the car door. My laptop bag is missing. You guys, I am techno diva. My laptop is like my business, okay? And I actually had a meeting with a client that evening. One of the reasons I was decided to go buy food as opposed to make it is because I didn't have a lot of time to get home, cook, and everything. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And someone like people don't steal from me. I'm a good like so then immediately ego. I'm a good person and I'm out here doing good in the world. And so people shouldn't steal from me. I shouldn't have that experience. That's the ego. Here's the reality. Life is going to continue to happen, whether you're a spiritual person or not. So when life does happen, what this work is about, how do you react? How do you respond? Really, one of the distinctions is do you react or do you respond? When you react, that's typically ego, all right? And it's going to get you upset, have you be angry, cussing, fussing, like angry, mad, feeling victimized. Whereas if you are responding, what it means is that you've gotten to a place in your spiritual work where you know how to take that beat. Be like, all right, what's happening here? What's there for me to get? Now, I'm in training, so I want to be clear. It wasn't like I wasn't upset or anything. No, first, and I had all these sensations moving through my body, and but I know I do the work. I had done my work that morning, so I do the work. And I said, all right, so what's there? What's going on? What just happened? Listen, my laptop was great. I'd had it for about 3 years. Awesome. When I bought it, it was top of the line. But what did happen, but it was having some challenges. It was. And it was, and I was like, oh, but I really don't want to buy a new laptop or whatever. But all that was going on. So one, guess what, you guys? I've got insurance. So like part of the work we talk about is like listening to spirit. And there's things you put in place. So like one thing I put in place was I have insurance. And so because I have insurance, I was like, I'm able to file a claim. Okay, that's beautiful. And so that was great. So I called the police, filed the report, did what I need to do. But let's back up before I even left the house. Before I left the house to go to the meeting, I was packing things up. There were two things. I was getting ready to grab my portable hard drive, which is back here somewhere, which is where I kind of like have files that I have on a portable hard drive. One is a techie, you always want to back things up because things do happen. And then I like save a lot of my files on the cloud. So I can just access them anywhere. Because my whole thing is about being mobile, being able to just move and groove, go where I want, and be able to function and do business. Because I like travel and adventure. So I was getting ready to put my tablet into the bag as well as the portable laptop. And Spirit was like, you don't need those. Travel light today. Okay. All you need is your laptop, you need your phone, you need your charger. I was like, all right, bet. Put all those things in the bag, grabbed my purse, went to the meeting. At the meeting, as we were wrapping up the meeting, wrapped up my phone charger, stuck it in that bag. I was getting ready to put my phone in the bag, and I was like, oh no, I'm gonna put it in my purse. And we went to the restaurant. Go inside, get the food. So, had I put my portable hard drive in that bag, now that would have been a devastating loss, right? My laptop, my tablet also, just because I just got it for Christmas and I like this new one. It's really awesome. The little S Pen. Oh, it's great, right? But Spirit told me, travel light. You don't need that. And I chose to listen. So a lot of the work we're talking about doing is learning how to listen to Spirit, hear it, and then making the choice to act on it. So the ego will have you be like, no, I need this, I need that. And remembering the voice of Spirit, mind you, it's that when we say that quiet, still, calm voice. It's not going to be belligerent. It's not going to be demanding. It's not going to be commanding. Any voice that you hear or something that's that compelling, typically is not Spirit, it's ego. No, because you're going, and what if you need something off the hard drive and then you don't have it? And see, that's our fear. Fear of loss. FOMO, fear of missing out, which is a term we use, that's ego driven. You don't have to have a fear of missing out. Missing out on what? Whatever is for you, you'll get. So you don't have to do things based on FOMO, fear of missing out. That's ego. It's ego. When you're afraid to try something new, all of that's our ego. When you're operating in love, when you're operating from Spirit, when you've learned to hear Spirit and you've learned to trust Spirit, it doesn't mean you won't have anticipation, but that's distinct from fear. So my laptop was taken. It was a bit inconvenient, right? If anything, I was inconvenienced. But was there really a loss? Was I hurt? In fact, the car door wasn't even broken. Diva had in our excitement, left the car door unlocked. And then on top of that, in our excitement, she ended up leaving her phone in the car. So they got her phone, they got my laptop, and in her phone were various, different things. All this stuff, right? So there was this loss, but you can call and cancel your cards. We live in and she needed a new phone as well. Like both of us are spirit-led healers who, like, we will ride our tech and our tools until the wheels fall off, because I don't have to have the brand new, I don't have to have all that. I need things that work, things operate integrity, get the job done. So I don't upgrade when every new thing comes out. Even as a technology consultant, I will tell people, you don't have to have, because sometimes when the new hot thing comes out, it's buggy anyway. Give them a chance to work the bugs out, then get it, right? And so she got a new phone. I have a new fabulous new laptop. It's even a little bit of an upgrade, kind of, it gets what I need to get done. It has a touch screen. I'm like, woo, whatever that's going to work. But I have a new laptop that works well, so that as I move into this new phase of business, I'm not going to deal with any technology breakdowns. So the good, I got a new laptop. I have insurance. I pay my premium. Dialed in, filed the claim, and by Thursday, the claim was settled and the money should be in my account, minus my small deductible, by Monday. So was there anything to be upset about? Is there anything to be angry about? Not really. But we can't really get to that space if we're not doing this kind of work, because what the world will tell you is be angry, feel violated, be upset, be mad at the person who stole it. Listen, that person is on their own journey. And they may have to learn a lesson about, again, when you take things that don't belong to you, but that's their own personal journey. And I released them to that. And I had just written a blog that morning. If you go to my adivamedicinewoman.com, which is my website, a diva, because I'm a diva, medicine woman, there's a blog I wrote on how to release and let go. Because someone had asked a question about doing forgiveness work and how you forgive people who've done you wrong. And I literally had Spirit had downloaded the whole answer to that question. I blogged about it and posted it. And so in that moment, when I talk about Spirit and when you do this work, I just did what Spirit had already told me to do for that person. I had the information right there. And I had to do the forgiveness work. Find it, release it, and speak it. And the work, what I did in that article, and it talked about, listen, it's the process. So I wasn't just like hunky-dory about this. I had to do the work, and I had to repeat it until it was real for me. Like, I released that person into the loving care of the divine. I thank that messenger. I thank that angel. I was not going to go out and buy a new laptop. I would still be making do with that one. But I also created for myself this year, I want not only adventure, not only a life of purpose, which I have, I wanted a life of luxury. Well, how can I say I want a life of luxury if I'm using bootleg equipment? That doesn't even compute. So this is how Spirit was helping me fulfill upon what I created from my own life. This is a wonderful, sleek, fabulous new luxury computer. Okay. And this is what it starts to look like in real life when you do the work and when you live the principles. So when we talk about love, the lesson of love, we talk about anger. So it was, again, so apropos. You can't be angry if everything is for your highest, best, and good. But our lessons don't always feel warm and fuzzy. So there's this erroneous thought that love is always like love. The concept of tough love is real, because sometimes we have to bang our head a few times before we get the message. But the beautiful thing about spiritual growth, you guys, is the more you choose to do the work, the less you have to, the shorter the amount of head banging, as it were, right? And one of the things we talk about with wisdom is to then not even have to bang your head. So this is from the text. I'm gonna see if I can find the I was trying to see if I could find the passage that I'm thinking of. But it's like when you start to really get that wisdom, you're able to look and see what your brother or your sister is going through, get the message, get the lesson through them, and you don't even have to experience it. And the work we do is literally like, we'll start off like, okay, we'll say, so something told me I shouldn't have, but I did it anyway, right? So we all have that awareness. Everyone said it, I promise. Okay. And so then there's this awareness that, very often I'll get this instinct that I should or shouldn't do something, and then I ignore it, and then something bad happens. Or I follow it and something good happens. It's on both sides. Because the spirit always has our best interest at heart. That's just how it goes. So there's the awareness, right? So we'll say we start here. This awareness that this is a thing. And then at some point we begin to be like, there has to be something better than the struggle that I'm going through in life, right? And you begin, so that's like you're leveling up, and then you begin to search. There's something better. Sometimes that happens for people when they reach a certain level of achievement according to the world standards. They've made a certain amount of money, or they got married, they've got the kids, the car, the house, the mate, and the job, and or whatever it is that's supposed to make you happy, and you're still feeling like, and begin searching. For other people, it's a different motivator. For me, a lot of it happened when my mom passed when I was very young. I was 19. And one of the things she was able to bless me with, her point was like, life is not promised. So she put off a lot of things she wanted to do in life because they always said, she should get married and have kids. And so she did all that, she'd have time to do her thing. And she left the planet at 47. And she had really just kind of started doing her own thing. Right. And she was like, don't wait, don't live your life for what the world says. And I got that message. I didn't get it immediately when she told me, because I was actually a teen and younger, because I was one of her caregivers. But when she passed, it started to click. I can promise you, losing a parent or a sibling, death is sometimes a very strong motivator. It can be such a blessing sometimes, because it kind of like, ooh, life is short. In this physical body, I should say, this is not eternal. This thing, yeah, not eternal. Your true spirit, your nature, of course, is. So we all have different triggers of why we end up getting on our own journey and knowing like there's more to it. But whatever that is for you, you start on it. And then you will look for masters and guides. But the idea of a teacher or a master or guide is not that, like, as a teacher, I'm not someone who's like higher or more. No, I've just had some experiences and I can share. And so the wisdom becomes being able to go and learn from a master, learn from a teacher, so that an idea is that your teacher eventually you should meet them. And in some cases, you surpass them. That's the game, which is why you're not supposed to stay in one place of learning forever. So even inside of going to church, inside of that model, it's like, your pastor meets you, you may not know anything, right? If they're teaching you, okay, they're teaching you what they know, and hopefully they're continuing to learn. So you see how so we all can keep moving up, but sometimes you may be here and this person's like, I got, none of it matters. Right? You get to your awareness, and then you start to, and then as you get to the awareness, you start searching, you start getting tools. Now you got to start using the tools to be able to, before you make a major decision, how do you know how to check in with spirit? Because it sounds great. They say do a gut check. What does that literally mean? Because it's not literally my stomach. So a gut check doesn't mean me looking at my stomach. My stomach isn't going to tell me anything. Literally, it doesn't. My belly button's not going to talk to me. So one of the things when we do these tools and why you want to work with a master or coach or spiritual guide is that you start to learn how to do a gut check. I will tell you, one of my favorite tools to use, listen, there's feelings sometimes, but I have it's a pendulum. It's a method called dowsing. And the idea behind it is that like our true, what's good and for our highest good is on an energetic level. And so it creates vibrations. And so a vibration of, is this for my highest, best, and good is one kind of vibration. And if my vibrations, is this not for me, is another kind of vibration. And so the tool, I was trying to think of where, I don't know where it is right now. I would show you guys. Because a lot of this, I let spirit guides me in this. So I may do a short video. I will, and I'll post it on the New Thought, New Life discussion group. So join the discussion group if you want to see that. But it will move in different directions. Because it's not witchcraft. It's understanding energy and how it works. When something is for you, it feels one way. When something isn't, it feels another way. The pendulum is just a tool. Yes, I think it's right here. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Yeah. In my purse. And so I carry mine with me. But I only pull it out because I'm working better on this. It's a crutch in some sense because when you first learn to ride a bike, you have training wheels, right? And then eventually you don't need training wheels because you really get balance, right? So as you grow in your spiritual work, there are tools you can use to get started, and eventually you don't need those tools anymore. So this is my little pendulum. I like it. It's copper. Now these are gemstones. Gemstones are of the earth, and they have different vibrations and frequencies. So this is my little pendulum. So my pendulum, it's like you can say things like, is my name Kanaya? My name Kanaya, and I'm holding it, and the pendulum's moving back and forth. That's easy, easy peasy, right? Was I born in Hawaii? Was I born in Hawaii? Now my pendulum has changed direction. I was not born in Hawaii. This is a no. It's real simple. Was I born in Detroit, Michigan? I said yes. Real simple. It's energy. There's nothing magical about that. I promise. It's just a simple way to demonstrate that. Eventually, as you do the work, you begin to understand what does it feel like when something is for you and when it's not. You'll get in tune to it. But everybody's spirit can communicate many ways. In the Bible, for example, there's a gentleman named Daniel. If you're not a person who knows the Bible, but Daniel was a person who got dreams. So there are people who spirit talks to them in dreams. And Daniel was a Jewish person who was actually in captivity, but ended up becoming one of the king's advisors because he was so good at dream interpretation. Okay, so none of this, not witchcraft, it's none of that. Spirit uses many different tools, signs. You have the work for you, the work for me, the work for all of us is to begin to understand our unique relationship with the divine so that we can begin to be reconnected with who we are. And so when you then know that, now before you make a move, is this for my highest, best, and good? You can pause. I go to marketing seminars, I'll go to events and all sorts of things that could be good. But then before I decide to sign up for something, I just do a moment and I have to ask. Sounds great, looks pretty and shiny, but man, is this for me? Sometimes I get yes, sometimes I get no. My biggest journey is learning to honor what spirit tells me and not doubt it, right? And be like, but it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make sense a lot of times based on the world, but the world is a creation of ego agreement. We unfortunately mostly live in a society that's fear-based. It's in a scarcity and lack. Those are all fear. Our economy is really based on a fear mentality, right? Like the idea of supply and demand. If we limit supply, it increases demand, which means we can charge more. But there's no such thing as lack. There's more than enough. So it's an economy based on creating a sense of lack. But that's a whole different conversation. We want to talk about that. So love. And so one of the things I loved about the text was it talked about a church that does not inspire love has a hidden altar that is not serving the purpose for which God intended it. And so New Thought is about the message of love. And these are things that when I was reading this, it resonated with my spirit. And so I knew that this was the path for me. If you have never heard, like I said, of A Course in Miracles, you can begin your journey at any time. I would encourage you, pick up the text. I actually have been rereading it this time on my tablet. My original version, when I got this, probably almost 10 years ago, as you can see, old school, I highlighted it when I was living in Chicago. I did a lot of my spiritual awareness work when I lived in Chicago. So it's highlighted and so going back through it and being able to do it digitally is awesome. But love. And so then inside the text in this chapter 6, so just kind of wrapping up the piece on ego and healing and wholeness, because a lot of your access to your healing and wholeness is going to be you being able to distinguish between what the ego is telling you and what spirit is telling you. If you follow what spirit is telling you, then the ego can't have any power over you. Fear will have no power over you. Anger, we start in this particular section, we start talking about love. Anger has no power over you. trying to get to, yeah, it has no power over you. So there was like, and then the anger that I felt briefly around losing my laptop, it dissipated I was able to move that energy out of my body relatively quickly using the tools that I know to use. So that tool, like I said in that blog, A Diva, what was that blog? It was like, one, I have to speak forgiveness, right? You have to literally say it. Your words have power. Okay. Um, and so I spoke the forgiveness, right? And then after I spoke the forgiveness, um, I had to record it. It's a little journaling, like what happened, right? As I said, I thank the divine, I thank the spirit, I thank spirit for revealing to me the good in this scenario. Yeah, I had to reflect on it. Like, what was there for me to get out of it? And then I spoke the forgiveness. I forgive the thief for taking my laptop and release that person into the loving energy of the divine. I had to release them, express gratitude. I said, and I'm grateful to divine for being I'm grateful to this person for being a messenger to me in my life. I received this message, I've learned for it, and I never need to repeat it again. And for me, that's the lesson of don't settle. So like for me, the lesson out of that was like, stop making do. Stop being cheap. If you say you want luxury, stop being cheap. And so as I'm going through, like, for my home, and I'm purging things, like the lesson I got was like, stop trying to make stuff work because you don't want to waste money. If spirit is the source of everything and there's no such thing as lack, I've got resources. This doesn't mean be irresponsible. It's not saying like just I'm going to go out and spend willy-nilly, but it's like if something doesn't work, you have two choices. Now, I have two choices. I can fix it or I can release it. So I was going through doing laundry and I got a couple of pairs of socks and the socks had holes in it, right? And I noticed the last one I put the sock on. These are some of my ski socks. So they're like these thermal socks, but I use them when I go skiing. But I haven't been skiing in a couple of years, but we've had a pretty cold winter. So I pulled my socks out because I don't like to have cold feet. And one of my socks, oh my goodness, there's a hole in this sock. Now, these are not cheap socks. Why? Because they're these thermal socks. And so it was like you have two choices. You can fix the sock. It's not a problem. But if you're not going to fix it, then release it. You don't hold on to broken things. Same thing with my computer. I could have made a choice, go get the computer fixed. But what had happened with that computer, it actually dropped it, and I had to reinstall the hard drive. And ever since I dropped it and did the whole hard drive, it was like it was just. And then this tech isn't designed to last long, unfortunately. And there's not a lot of integrity, I don't think, in electronics building. But that's a different conversation. Why we need to upgrade our phones every couple of years. But either way, it doesn't work for me to have tech that doesn't work. Not when a huge component of my income and livelihood is technology consulting, right? So as I'm going through and I was doing laundry, I started purging. And then the things I was going to fix, wet my needle and my thread, right? And if I didn't feel like fixing it, I tossed it. I'm not holding on. No more broken stuff. I got the message. I don't need to have anything else taken from me to remind. I don't need that. So I don't need to get the message. And then the last step was repeat. And it says repeat all of the above until any upset or anger is gone. Okay. So you keep doing that. And so I had to do that a few times. But really by the end of that evening, that Tuesday evening, the anger was pretty much gone. Then it became like, okay, what do I do now? And I pulled out a couple of old laptops I had that I hadn't gotten rid of so I can get them, rebooted to even just work because I have a live event I do Wednesday evenings in my fertility support group. And that didn't work. By midnight, it was like, okay, go to bed, woke up the next morning, tried a little bit. Spirit was like, okay, it's not working, sugar. What you going to do? It's like, go get a new computer. What are you doing? Oh, man, wasn't in the budget. Got it. But that's what you need. You need to work with a computer. So I have a Costco membership. I did my comparison shopping. Boom, boom, boom. Costco, the best value. Took my tail to Costco, bought the system, came home. It's just done. And then I took the old 2 units and I got rid of them. They're unworkable. Why was I holding on to them? 2 laptops sitting in my, so there was the lesson. And so what it looked like in my life, my Valentine's Day was spent loving on me, getting a new computer, getting it set up. Had a wonderful session with with Dr. Jenkins, and it worked, right? And so since then, now I've got a computer that boots up fast, it works, right? And this is what I'm supposed to have. And so when we started talking about love in chapter 6 in this text, they start talking about anger. And it's like anger cannot occur unless you believe that you've been attacked, that your attack is justified in return, and that you are in no way responsible for it. So I got rid of the anger that I was feeling against that person who stole, even though we think it was a certain young man who was loitering around, because he's on his own journey. He was obviously struggling to be like a drifter or like homeless, whatever was going on, and he saw an opportunity, maybe something he could sell to get some food or whatever that was there for him, right? And I just release him I have to release him into the loving care of the divine, because guess what? I don't have to steal things from people to put food in my mouth. I'm blessed. I got more than enough food in my house. If I don't feel like cooking food, I can go out and buy food, right? But I can if I was really hungry, I might steal. I might. But luckily, I don't have to, because I understand the source of my supply. And so I can get more anytime I need it. That's a blessing, right? And one of the things we kicked off on Wednesday is the 40-day prosperity plan. So the Lenten season is upon us. I didn't really know Lent was a thing. It's not something I really grew up with, but I like it in concept. I was like, why? In most major spiritual traditions, you go through a period of time of fasting and devotion. You've got Ramadan in the Islamic tradition. There's Lent in the Christian tradition. I can't give you any other names, but in most spiritual traditions, there's a time of cleansing and focused intention. And so I like using Lent as an opportunity to do that. And in one of my New Thought churches, we did what was called the 40-day prosperity. No, yeah, the 40-day prosperity plan. Or was it? No, it was Prosperity Plus. Either way, the idea behind it was to take a fast from lack and thoughts of scarcity, and to spend this time period not so much about giving up pop or meat or whatever. You can do that too, right? But a mental fast. And so Spirit told me a few weeks ago to do the 40-day prosperity plan and open it up to people this Lenten season. And so inside of that, the idea is 40 days of fasting from lack. So like watching my mind, watching my words, and speaking abundance and positivity. And then we do the affirmations in the morning. You get up, or before you go to bed at night, you do your affirmation. You meditate on your prosperity principles, and you journal. And it's 40 days of this. And there's a set series of prosperity principles and affirmations that you use. So it's a whole system. And it was like, and so put that out there to the world. And so I did. And the kickoff was Wednesday, which happened to be Ash Wednesday. And so of course I'm in this technology breakdown. So I need to launch the 40-day prosperity plan. I was like going through this whole thing, and Spirit was like, baby, calm down. It's okay. First of all, it's not a magical day. It's just a day that people have agreed to start. And your start was giving up concern that something was wrong because you had this theft. I was like, yeah. And then I think we started Thursday. And small group of divas, we're doing this together. If anyone is interested in participating, you don't have to wait to next Lenten season. You can start right now. Let me know. You drop me a message and I'll get you started. The way I do it is I have the messages delivered to your inbox daily. So you can you check it and you have it available. And so just getting up in the morning and like, so I have access to understanding, again, tools in how to manifest prosperity into my life. This is the work we do. So I can tell you the pillars are going to be prayer. There's going to be meditation. There's always going to be journaling, and there's going to be gratitude. Like these are the keys to connecting with the divine. Why do you need to pray? Well, praying allows you to vocalize. I specialize, and we talk about affirmative prayer, when you're speaking things into existence and you are affirming and you're acknowledging who you are and what's yours. So there's a scripture, it says, ask and ye shall receive. But the asking is not so much in a supplication sense. But the asking in that scripture, what it literally means is to request what is there for you. So for example, if I'm at dinner with my family and I ask someone to pass the potatoes, right? Maybe we're having garlic mashed potatoes, right? It's not like I'm not asking him, I have an expectation, right? That the person sitting closest to the potatoes will then pass them to me. Right? Now, there's no fear of, well, can I have some potatoes? Please. No, that's like the supplication. That's like when we're like, God, please save me, help me. God's told you, you are already saved. If you're a Christian, Christ has already told you, you are already saved. You have to just claim it. There's nothing else that has to happen. We start talking about the crucifixion here in the Course in Miracles, and there's a totally different take on what the crucifixion was about. As a teaching tool. It's a teaching tool. There's nothing to be upset about. Yeah, he knew it was going to happen. It was part of the whole plan. Like everyone just played their part. And it says here that the message of the crucifixion was intended to teach. The message the crucifixion was intended to teach was that it is not necessary to perceive any form of assault and persecution because you cannot be persecuted. When I first read this whole section about like what the crucifixion was about, I was like, what? Because I've never heard anything like that. And so this is, again, Spirit puts everything in divine timing, because to be in Lent and then to be reading this section on love and have this section talk about the crucifixion, well, the whole point, if you're not Christian, you'd be like, what is she talking about? Really simply, Lent is in Christian churches. It was a choice. It was a doctrine that was created. It's not biblical, in case anyone was wondering. There's nothing about Lent in the Bible. It's not. But it was a tradition created to mimic the time that Jesus, who was at that point operating as Jesus Christ. So Jesus, the man who was born to Mary and Joseph, right? There's that, the man. And then at some point, that man activated what we call his Christ nature, and that he got connected to the divine, right? And so operating as Jesus Christ is distinct from operating as Jesus, right? So he's operating as Jesus Christ at that point. And he spent roughly 40 days and 40 nights fasting, meditating away. And what he ostensibly was preparing himself for was what was going to happen inside the crucifixion. So he knew this is all part of the divine plan. So we talk about why people say, what do you mean you have a divine assignment? What do you mean about sacred contracts? It is my belief, right? It is what I, in my heart, feel is that as spirits, we create a strategy. We all have a purpose. And that purpose we co-create with the divine before we choose to come and manifest and to be individualized on this planet, however we choose to come here. Like we come here however we come here. Now, once we choose to come here, we're subject to the laws of man to some extent. So we may be born into bodies that may have some afflictions. Sometimes those things are a result of things that our parents are dealing with. You know, think about children who are born addicted to drugs. Like, all those things happen. It's not that they're wrong or bad. It's none of that. Well, why does God allow that to happen? It's not an allow. This isn't a God that's coming in with like a magic wand and says, do this, do that. It's all a part of the journey. But in this particular person, in with the journey that they came on, was to come to be this example. And so the crucifixion was part of the journey. But just because that was part of the journey, it doesn't really, I mean, consider if you knew that you were going to die, right? I mean, it would still take something to prepare yourself for it, right? Like, I get that that's going to happen. I understand that that's part of my journey. And I still have some work to do to really be able to go into this experience with love and remain present to what I know to be true, because my body will be experiencing something that's physically very uncomfortable, right? It would be very easy for Jesus to be like, why are you persecuting me? All I've really done, you think about it, was I came down here and I'm providing healing and hope and help to people. And now you all want to kill me. Really? I know I felt that way. I felt like that like initially when they stole my laptop. Really, I like literally just left a meeting where we're talking about how we want to bring wellness to underserved communities, and then someone's gonna steal my computer. Like, why me? You can easily get there, right? And so during this 40 days and 40 nights, This was his time of preparing himself mentally, spiritually, emotionally for what was going to come. So that's what Lent is really about. It's taking some time to do some mental work, to just really focus. And so that's why I say anyone can participate. It's one of those things when you talk about like a shared reality. It's powerful when you choose to come together and there's a whole group of people because that's energy. We talk about when more than two, when two come together in the name of God, that there's power there. So consider thousands and millions of people around the planet choosing to fast and pray at the same time, but all being on the same page. So 40-day prosperity plan, that's just all we're doing. We're all taking that time to intentionally come together to focus on that. And so the crucifixion was coming. And the idea, it was like we were all equal. I found this one, the scripture I was looking for earlier. That's fine. I didn't highlight it. That's why I couldn't find it. My bad. But yeah, the message of the crucifixion, teach only love, for love is what you are. So as Jesus went through that entire experience, even when he was betrayed by Judas, who was simply just, Judas was fulfilling a role. Someone had to be the one. And that was his role. Now, why he chose that as his role, I don't know. That's, again, his personal journey. Even after the crucifixion, right? And Peter, who Jesus said, I'm going to build my church upon you, the rock. But Peter denied knowing Jesus 3 times. Why? Because they might come for me. Peter hadn't done the preparation work to be prepared to be killed at the time. But what you hear about in the books of the biblical canon, right, after the death of Jesus, and if you even study like Roman history and history, what you'll find is that Christians did begin to experience persecution. Yeah. Because the beliefs that they were promoting were very radical at the time. A message of peace, love, and abundance, and equality, and brotherhood and sisterhood. I mean, Jesus had men and women in his ministry. That was unheard of. Judaism at the time, women weren't holding, because Jesus was Jewish, didn't hold positions of power, but Jesus gave women a place at the table. Radical. The idea of abundance and the idea of sharing went right in the face of what was going on in Rome and in government at that time, which is all about greed. You know, goodness, there's so many parallels to what goes on in our current world. But I'm not going to get into that. It's 2:00 and I got to start wrapping it up. But this message of love, we love even through our discomfort. We love even through feeling that we are being mistreated, because there is no such thing. However, we're being treated is either because I just have to tell you, we did not listen to Spirit when Spirit told us not to do this, not to go, or to do something, okay? Or there's a lesson for us to get out of it. But at no point are you being persecuted. There's no such thing. It doesn't mean that if someone is doing something that's causing you harm, you don't take action. But there's still not even need to be angry about it. If they find the young man who stole my laptop, it doesn't mean that I should say, oh, he doesn't need to go to jail or experience repercussions. No, but I'm not doing it because I'm angry with him. His journey may be that he has to learn there's another way. He needs to also learn. Now, I might go minister to this person, right? Well, so to me, like putting people in jail in terms of rehabbing them would be about, we're going to have to remove you from Gym Pop right now because you are misguided and believe that you need to cause harm to people. And we're going to help rehabilitate you to know that you are loved and that God loves you and that there's more than enough and you don't have to take or violate anyone. But we're going to help you get to that point. But until you're there, we do need to take you away from Gym Pop because we can't have you out here running amok doing crazy stuff. That doesn't work either. So there's a way to operate in love with everything and through anything. And the more we learn to listen to Spirit, the more we learn to humble that ego and to become more connected with the divine, listening to the Holy Spirit, honoring it and trusting it, the more we can experience ease and joy in our life, even through challenging scenarios. And so that is what was there for me to share with you all today. I hope that it has been a blessing to whoever has watched and does listen. We will be here every Sunday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can always find us at live.newthoughtnewlife.com. I thank you. I thank Spirit. I opened it up before I start the broadcast with a prayer, but I always love to end. So if you can just take a moment, close your eyes, take a nice deep cleansing breath, which is in through the nose and then out through the mouth, nice and slowly. Again. And one more time. Allowing ourselves to be peace. Mother, Father, God, source of everything, I thank you for this opportunity to come together, to be a tool, to be a teacher, opportunity to share, opportunity for me to create space in my life for more abundance by giving forth of what I've already have. I receive my blessings, I share them with others, knowing that more comes from the infinite supply. I stay open and aware to doing the highest, best, and good for myself, for others, and for anyone whose my life touches and my light touches. Until the next time, be well, stay fabulous. Good afternoon. Bye.